Hi everybody, thanks for joining us again. Today I'm going to do another make my own creation build using this poly bag set. Is the Technic Mars Rover Perseverance set 30682 with 83 pieces. So very much like last time, I used a creator set where you had to gift animals. You can build three different animals with the bricks that were provided. The only exception to this set, I guess, is there, as you can see, there's no organic looking parts. They're all very kind of blocky, machine-like, well, because it's a Technic set. So the challenge today is, instead of building three machines out of a poly bag set like last time, I'm going to do the reverse. I'm going to take a machine-themed set and make three animals out of it. So if you watched our last video, you'll see that the strategy on going about building three different type of machines out from a set where it's meant to build animals. What you do is you look at the pieces that's provided, you study the shape, and from there on you use that technique, you use different building techniques to build a model, the machine model that you want. Today's video is no different, except this time around we're going to use a machine-like pieces and build organic looking creatures. I'm going to take the pieces out of the bag here. And as you can see, very much like a Technic set, you have a lot of wheels, a lot of pin pieces, a lot of these bracket pieces. They're mostly in white. You have these connection plates. And then you have more of these joints. And then of course, what would a Technic set be without pins? So you have various sizes of pins. These are axos. You have the pins. And of course you have the axo pin combinations. And then you have other pieces such as these connector pieces for your axos, where you have your normal brick, and then you have a port in the middle where you can put an axle. You also have pieces where you have either like a regular shaped piece, or you have like a specific shape piece like this C bracket here. But you have ports where you can put in pins. Now the difference between pins and axos is that the pins, when you put it into a brick like this, it allows free motion. Whereas an axle, unless you put it into a piece where it lets you rotate, it pretty much stays in place. It doesn't let you rotate. Okay, so it works for the axo slash pin piece. It also works with a regular axo piece. It wouldn't let you spin, or it wouldn't let you turn it. Basically holds it in place. So there's other pieces, like you have your normal cylinder piece, like these two. You have these ball-shaped pieces, which in this set are used as tires on the rover. You also have this connector bar, which you would see in bigger Technic sets, especially for the race car models. You have these specialized joint pieces, connector pieces, like this, like these, this here. And then of course you have your gear pieces, very much like what you would expect in any Technic set. You would have gear pieces. And of course, you have these decorative rod elements where you can use it for your other parts of your build, depending on what you want. And then you have your connector pins, and the pins are these connector pins, and you can see their differences from a regular axle pin is that you have a cap at the end, so it prevents you from pushing any pieces beyond where that cap is. And then you have your pins with the ball joints at the end for models where you have like a cup piece or a socket piece where you can make robots or any other machinery where you have an articulation point. And last but not least, you have, like, you know, some of these connector plates which kind of serve as end caps or something just to connect like two sides together. So for today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to build three animals. First, I'm going to build a kangaroo, a bipedal animal. Then I'm going to build a quadruped, like a dog. And then last but not least, I'm going to build a manta ray. they all have different body shapes. So I figured this would be the best way of kind of showing everybody how you can use these pieces to build those shapes. So going back to what I said in the last video, before you even start your build, kind of plan your model, look at what you have. So as you can see, we have these L-shaped brackets. You have these plates, long plates. And then you have these connector pieces where you have 2 axle pins ports at the end, and then you have a push pin port in the middle. You have 4 of these. And then you have these regular bricks with the axle port in the middle. So what can you do with these? For any animal, I typically like to build either from the leg up or the torso outwards, because for me it's easier for me to visualize how the model would look like if I have a starting point that's definitive that I can kind of picture in my head and then build from there. So with the kangaroo, what I would do is I would start by having these L-shaped pieces because they remind me of legs, as you can see. And then from there on, I'm going to build my model upwards. So for this to have stability, right? Not necessarily articulation, but just stability. What I would do is I would try to envision what the body would look like and how I would connect all the pieces. So in this case, right, a kangaroo, what does a kangaroo have? The kangaroo have 2 legs, a long tail. You would have a space for a pouch. They have 2 arms. And then they would have a head with kind of a very small set of ears, or sorry, not small set of ears, kind of like floppy sets of ears on top. I'm going to use these pieces to the best of my abilities to build this animal. So start off, I'm going to have the 2 legs, kind of put it aside here. And what I would do is I would connect them with a pin like this, or an axle pin like this. So right away, you can kind of see in your head, okay, so this is what it would look like if I'm to build an animal that's going to have 2 legs. So from this point on, I'm going to build up. So I'm going to have something that would connect the torso. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take these 2 pins, or 2 bricks with the axle pin port in the middle, and kind of connect it right in the middle, right in the crotch area. So just kind of give you an idea. Okay, so yeah, you can kind of see, like, you know, how this is kind of coming to look like a body. Okay, so you're gonna have to consider where you're gonna put the tail and where you're gonna build the rest of the animal up from. So at this point, what I would do is I would kind of look at my pieces, look at the inventory, and see what I can do. So for me to insert a tail or put a tail up, I would have to have some sort of joint, a connection joint, where I can connect a tail from. So I'm going to use this piece and kind of build myself up from this point on. Next is I'm going to need to find pieces that I can build up to kind of go up towards the neck area. So I need to see what I have, and if all I have right now is just this one piece here. So can I build up at this point like this? Not really. So what this means is that I would have to look at what else I can do to use as a torso. So if this doesn't work, I would have to find an alternative. So what can I use? A torso is basically a lanky cylindrical part of any creature where your limbs, your extremities, like your legs and your arms and your tail and your head stems from. So what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to take these pieces and kind of put it here. Now you can kind of see it's starting to take shape, where you can see that I can actually build a set of arms here and put a head up here and somehow connect the tail here. But the problem is it looks too lanky. So what can I do to kind of beef them up at this point? Well, I have these connection plates that I can insert. They're just thin enough that I can put on the side without having it look too cumbersome. So now I kind of give it a little bit more bulk, a little bit more weight in the leg area, because Kangaroos do have leg muscles. So now I'm going to build up. I'm going to build up so that I can give this creature some sort of like a semblance of some sort of like a head and an arm. So I have more of these plates. I'm going to attach these plates onto the main body. But at the same time, I'm going to leave it some space so I can attach, say, arms later. So now I have this part where I can attach another pin. So I'm going to use like a thinner pin just to give it some. Oh, sorry. I'll use a red pin to push it in there. Just kind of hold it in place. Do the same on the bottom. So now you can kind of see you can kind of look at the torso and the legs in relation to the rest of the creature. So now I'm going to build from this point on and then see if I can add the head and the arms. So with this, you don't want to make the arms too bulky because on a kangaroo, it's not like a really wide shoulder creature. So I'm going to look at the pieces I got right now and see what I can use for that. So with this, I can kind of like build that up a little bit. Use that as the arm, and notice that the weight when it cantilevers out, it kind of counterbalances everything. So it gives it the shape plus the stability as you're building this. So I'm going to keep going. I need to give this creature a neck. So using the same pieces, the same idea. I'm going to insert the pin there. So now you can it's kind of taking shape. It looks like a little humanoid shape, but a kangaroo is not a humanoid. So you got to give it some other distinguishing features to kind of like make it not look so human-like. So I would attach a pin here, and that would kind of form like a snout piece. And then if you want to kind of give it a little bit more, I guess, definition on the head, because right now it doesn't really speak kangaroo, right? I could add a piece right here. This is actually one of the articulator pieces. And what you can see here is it actually forms a kind of ear shape on the top. At the same time, you can actually use this piece to connect to the rest of the head by using these pin pieces, these axle pieces. Okay. Connect that. And then use another piece on the other side. So at this point, you kind of have an ear, like kind of like a head right here. So this pin here would be, you wouldn't really need it. So now you have like an articulating head. Notice that throughout this time, unlike last time, right? Unlike the regular Lego pieces, Technic takes a little bit more trial and error, especially when you want to take the pieces and make it into something that's what is not meant to be. Don't be discouraged that you can't get it right the first time. A lot of the times when you build original Lego models, you need to kind of like test out the pieces that you got and kind of see what you can build with it. So now what I have left is the tail. So as you can see in the remaining pieces, right, we don't have a lot of things that kind of say, oh, hey, it's a tail right away. So what you can do right now is you can either take this. I mean, obviously this one would be easy because it's the longest piece here you have, and it kind of resembles a tail. You can kind of stick it right in between the leg. And then you take another one of these axles and put it in there. And then you have yourself a tail for your kangaroo. Now there are other ways of adding the tail pieces. Like for instance, you see how you have all these extra pieces remaining? You can always just put them together and make an articulating tail. So I took a pin piece or axle pin, put the two connector plates on, and then at the end here, I can always just put another one of these pins and do the same thing. So now I have a longer tail. And what I can do is I can just take this piece out that I put in earlier. Remove that length piece. And then connect this into the back. And what I can do is I can, again, use a pin. So there you have it. Using Technic, you can actually use it to build little creatures. And this is kind of my attempt on building like a rather primitive kangaroo. You have a lot of pieces remaining, obviously, and again, this goes back to the idea where you just don't leave a model at first. You can just keep trying until you get the model into the shape that you want. So for me, this is my very first attempt on a kangaroo based on studying the pieces I have, recognizing the shape of the creature of the model I want to build, and then build around that with a starting point. In my case, I use the legs as a starting point. So I'm going to move on to another model now. This time I'm going to build something with 4 legs instead of 2. So last time, if you remember my previous video where I took a set where you can build the dog, the lemur, and I believe it was a rabbit. And I use it to build an excavator, an X-wing fighter, and a catamaran. This time around, I'm going to use the same idea, but I'm going to build a creature using these pieces that you would use it for other combinations and other builds. So I'm going to build a wiener dog. I'm going to look at the pieces I've got in front of me. And what do I have? I have these tires, or these bubble pieces. I have these regular cylinder pieces. I have axles. I have these braces. I have these pins. And I have all these other oddly shaped pieces that I can use. So for a wiener dog, obviously the most distinguishing feature is the torso. So what I'm going to do is with these pieces in front of me, I'm going to build a wiener torso. So the first thing I would think is, hey, these tires, if you stack them up like this, they kind of look like a torso. They look like a wiener dog torso. The problem is you have to figure out how to connect them as well, because if they don't connect together, you won't have the shape of a dog. You're just going to have a shape of a bunch of stacked bubble pieces. So in this case, when you look at the connectivity of these pieces, the best way of doing it is use this axle rod that it comes with. Now it's a long axle rod, so you can string 2 or 3 of them together. But at the end, right, you still have the same problem. How do you keep them in place? Because right now it's kind of free moving on this axle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these cylinder pieces because they have these axle ports in place and lock these cylinder pieces in. So now what you can see is you can see a body forming around in between these cylinder white pieces. So now with this white cylinder in place, I can build the rest of the dog using this as a foundation. So I can use one of these pieces where it has an axle port to use to join things like a leg, like a pair of legs or whatnot, or a head or a tail. I'll do the same on the other end. Okay, so as you can see right now, I have a defined torso. And a wiener dog typically has stubby little legs. So I see these little C braces on the end, right? So what I can do is I can actually either attach it here. So as you can see now, you can see these braces, like the ends of these braces, forming kind of like little legs. But then I look at the remaining pieces that I have, and it doesn't look like I have anything else that I can use for a tail or a head, because I've used up like these ports here. And the proportion kind of look weird if I put it at the end here, because I don't have any other pieces to extend here to kind of make for the head of the dog and the tail of the dog. So what I'm going to do is, instead of putting the C brace at the end like this, I'm going to put it at the end like this. So now if you look at the side profile, the shape of a wiener dog is starting to take shape. Okay, and you can use the little end points of the C brace as the legs. So I'm going to build up at this point. So one of the things I can do right away is I can use this red piece as a little tail for the dog. Okay, so now I got to build up the head. And what I can do with the head is I can, again, use axles. And I can do one of two things. I can use the axle like this to build the main head. But then I need to find some way of connecting the snout and the ear of the dog. And in this case, I won't be able to do it because I just don't have the right pieces. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this out and not use the head as the ball as the base of the head. And I'm going to find myself some other pieces I can use. So what do I have here that I can use to kind of resemble the head? So if you remember, a dog has like a wiener dog has a small neck and a snout that comes out. So let's see what we have here. We have these pins where you have like an axle piece like thing at the end where you can insert it in a port. You have another one very similar to the one I just picked up, but you have two of the axle pins on it. And I also have this piece right here that I used for the kangaroo head before. But if that's the case, I would have to put the piece in like this. And the head would be looking up like this. Let's just put this piece aside and call it a maybe piece. So what do I want to do? I wanted to give it some personality. So I want to be able to give it a pair of ears and a snout and something that that would look towards you. So a wiener dog has a very short neck and a relatively larger head compared to the neck. So I'm going to use this piece, this L piece, with the axle port or the pin port in the middle. That's what I want to do. Okay. So as for the snout, I'm going to use one of these pieces, kind of put it in there. And then for the ear, let's just keep it simple. I'm going to use these, since I don't really have any floppy pieces. I'm going to use these pin pieces, these axle pin pieces, where you have these axle ports at the end there. So I'm going to take an axle, put it in there. Then I'm going to put it through the head like this and plug it in there. Well, looks like this pin isn't long enough, so I'm going to use a longer pin. I'm going to use a red axle pin. Okay, so right off the bat, it's not like, it doesn't look like a dog right away, but again, like what I said before, if you keep kind of looking at what the pieces you have, you can always just replace it with other pieces that you think would work better as the ears for the dog. So one of the things I'm looking at is maybe I should use these pieces, these connector plates, as ears instead. So in this case, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this out, take the assembly out, put it down. Going to take the pin, another axle pin, connect it at the end, and then connect one plate at the end, and then I'm going to connect another plate at the end here. So now you can see, you can kind of see the ears a little better than the previous model. Okay, but the snout seems a little long, so I'm just going to take it off. And now it kind of gives me more of a shape of a snout instead of that gigantic long nose thing piece. For me, I'm going to stop at this point because given the pieces I've got, I'm actually quite happy with the way this looks. If you're not happy with it, you should take the pieces that you have and kind of experiment with what you have and kind of play with it. So in this case, I think I'm gonna give him kind of like a poodle-like tail. So I'm gonna take the ball joint piece, the axle piece with the ball joint, and put it in the back. So now he has a round tail. So you get the idea. The idea is to keep fixing and perfecting your model until you have what you want, the shape that you want. So that's my wiener dog. Now I'm going to move on to something a little bigger. I'm going to make a manta ray. And the reason why I want to use a manta ray is I've been building these land animals that kind of have like a tube-like body. But what if you want to build something that's a little bit more sleek looking? I mean, you can always use these pieces to build a snake for sure, but let's build something a little bit more complex. So a manta ray, if you look at it, it has these large wings, it has a long tail. There's a slight fin on the back of the tail, and then of course you have like a head area. So how are you going to use these pieces to build that? So one of the things you want to do is you want to do a buildup of the body, of the torso first. So if you look at a manta ray, it has a very large flat body in the front. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to find pieces and build it from that point on. So again, using points of reference, I'm going to use these pieces, kind of give it like a head shape, make it like something I can build on. And then I'm going to keep building up. So notice that unlike the previous build, I kind of do a layout on what I want to do for this. So right now I'm trying to build kind of like a diamond shape because that's the shape of a manta ray, and then build from there on. Okay, so you have this. Like so. And I am starting to run out of pieces, so I'm going to see if I can add any more pieces onto this to give it more shape. So right now, as you can see, it's starting to have that kind of like a shovel shape to the manta. And then, of course, one of the best, the most recognizable feature to a manta is the tail. So I need to kind of build up the tail at some point. So I'm going to use that connector, the tire connector from the Rover, and use that as the back. Now that I kind of have the general shape made out, I need to connect all this together. So I'm going to take the pins, I'm going to use the longest part of the build and kind of put them all together. So just bear with me here. I'm going to flip this upside down because this is going to serve as a fin, this little fin on the back of the manta ray. Not sure if it has it or not, but I kind of like the look of it. Okay, so that's my element just for stabilizing the front part. So that being said, I'm going to use another pin, kind of stabilize it this way. Okay. Now I still have these pieces I got to put in. Okay. Now I'm going to connect these pieces onto the end here. I'm going to use these pins instead, kind of hold it in place. Okay, and then this. Like so. Now I can always just add these at the end as well, but just for the sake of simplicity, I'm just going to keep it like this. Now I'm going to add the tail piece like this, and then for the tail, you have this. So there you go, you have a little manta ray shape. Now, I know this is a little bit different and not as detailed as the other set, but keep in mind, Technic is, with the pieces that you have here, it's not meant to build animals, but you can always mimic the shape by using the pieces that you have. So that's actually one of the things that Technic differs from, I guess, what you call mainstream LEGO. You can, if you have enough pieces, you can actually make this more articulated. You can actually give it some movement features. Like, say for instance, if I have some more gear pieces or more bar pieces, I can actually make the tail articulate. I can actually make the wings articulate. But that would mean I would have to get more sets. Now, in the future videos, I will be doing that. I'll be taking a whole bunch of poly bags and putting them together into one much larger model mock, or make my own creation, or make my own creation. So with this, again, very much like the kangaroo and the dog, you can always just add pieces to, you know, pardon the pun, flesh it out a little bit. So what I can use for pieces at this point is I can use more of these pieces and kind of put it at the end if you want to give that wingspan a little bit more oomph, like so. And the good thing about Technic pins is that it's held together by friction. So if you use the right size pin, which in this case, I guess I'm not, it stays in place better. Now, I also have these axle pin combinations, right? So I'm going to use that instead. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull these pins out. And insert it into this, like so. Put it into the pin there, and then do a build up that way. So what I can do is use a pin here, use a pin here, and insert the pin there. So this is one way of beefing up a little bit. So as you can see, like, the main body is a little larger now. And if you keep kind of like looking at what you can add onto there, you can always just make it a little bigger in that fashion. So again, don't be discouraged if it doesn't work the first time. Just keep working at it until it comes out with the shape that you want. So in this case, right, I have like kind of like the main body kind of built. So you can kind of picture where this is where the head is, this is where the wing is, this is the tail, and this is like where kind of like the back kind of converges into that point. You can keep building until you have the shape that you want. So again, everybody, thanks for tuning in this time around. I will be doing more more complicated mocks in our future videos. If you like what you're watching, hit the subscribe button and follow our videos in the future. Thank you.